Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to some more Pathfinder Kingmaker. This is a game that I'm just pleased as punch to present to you peoples presently. And without further ado, let's click the new game icon so that I can give you a solid guide on character creation. Now, by the way, this is not going to be a Munchkin's guide to character creation. This is just going to be an explanation of the things you can do. Your class race combination is going to be hard to find a perfect portrait. Hopefully they'll have some custom portraits available, but let's select this dapper fellow here as our hero, and right away it said, oh, you picked the half-orc portrait, why not be a half-orc? Now, race selection. This is to your advantage but not necessary. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is, in your head, you're going to want to plan out your class, your race, your feats, your specializations. But my first advice is, if you want to have fun with the game, pick what is the coolest thing to you. Because a few points in stats here or there, it's all gonna come out in the wash. You don't worry about it. If you want to be a half-orc mage, by golly, you be that half-orc mage. Especially since half-orcs are actually just basically humans with orc training, so not actually the same way it used to be. But having said that, Aasimar are overpowered. There's no level adjustment in this system, so being able to select Aasimar as they get bonuses to stats, no penalties, they just get more starting stats than other races. They get a spell-like ability based on their heritage, and also some resistances, very, very strong, and a light halo, which acts as the spell light and also gives you a bonus on saving throws against blind or dazzled. And having said that, blind is something you'll run into. But let's quickly just select human, because they are very multi-talented, and these options are kind of slim, so just pick what you want here. Let's get into an actual class guide now and see. The character portrait is not always going to match up with the character you've designed, and that's okay. Hopefully custom portraits. Let's start at the top. Alchemist. So basically an alchemist is they feel like a spellcaster that uses technology instead of magic, that being the mystical art of potion-mancy instead of memorizing spells, but they actually function fairly similar. So you get to throw these bombs, and they deal... I'll show you. So this is the same thing as a spell. You basically conjure this bomb, but for the purposes of roleplay, you're quickly crafting one. 30-foot range. They act as a splash weapon. It's a ranged touch attack, and if you miss, then you actually hit an adjacent square to where you were aiming. So it can be off to the left or right, you know, say about 5 feet, short or long, or any combination of the above. And you see that they deal a d6 damage, plus your intelligence modifier. So intelligence is key for an alchemist when it comes to dealing damage. However, you're also going to want dexterity for your chance to hit. Even though it is a touch attack, especially at lower levels, you're going to really want to have as much of a bonus as you can get to get that reliable damage, and also to not splash your friends, neighbors, and relatives. Increases by a d6 every other level. That makes sense. So as a rogue's sneak attack, kind of power scaling, except this is range with a splash, which is also nice. Splash damage is always equal to the bomb's minimum damage. So 2d6 plus 4 becomes 6 damage on the splash. Okay, caught in the splash, you can save reflex for half. Interesting, with a direct hit, you do not get a reflex save, so that sort of gives you a little bit more flavor apart from a spellcaster. So there's that. Basically, you have AoE damage with reliable single target damage. I've noticed when facing an alchemist that they're an annoying foe, especially at lower levels, because they deal reliable damage. However, your bombs, they're not going to sway a fight as much as a mage's spells, if that makes any sense. The thing that really helps you out is your other utility, and that comes in the form of your mutagens. You can pause to read about those here. Basically, they give you bonuses to your stats, and they can also give you, a penalty to a different kind of stat. What do I mean by that? There's physical mutagens that you start with. They give you a physical bonus to one stat, and a penalty to a mental stat. Physical stats: strength, dex, con. Mental stats: intelligence, wisdom, charisma. So keep that in mind when you're planning out your character. You can also see that your mutagens can advance to last longer. Discoveries. Basically, you learn some new way to... It's basically a spell. It's basically I need to stop saying basically. It's a mage spell that you get that doesn't use magic, but alchemy, and only targets yourself unless you make some breakthrough that allows you to target someone else. Poison resistance, always helpful, especially in this game. I've noticed I'm about, I'd say probably early mid-game from what I can tell in the story, in my progress in the game so far. And poison is one of those things you encounter quite a bit. Delay poison is very useful for that reason. Poison immunity at 10th level, always good, always good. Lots of things, as I said, deal poison damage in this game. And at 20th level, Grand Discovery. So this is your reason to not multi-class as an alchemist. You're rewarded with that Grand Discovery at 20th level. So basically, alchemist is sort of, if you take a rogue and instead of sneak attack, they get these bombs they can throw, and they also get some of what are basically mage spells. So it's a good way to replace the Trapfinder in your party with someone who can deal sort of a halfway mage role, mostly for themselves. Grenadier is going to be someone that focuses on your bombs. And I haven't mentioned that you get throw everything and martial weapons proficiency. And then there you go. Light armor, no shield proficiency as far as your proficiencies go. What else do we get? Your regular mutagens, your regular discoveries. However, you get precise bomb as a grenadier. At first level, you also get alchemical weapon. It's a buff to your weapon, and let's see. 6th level, you can use your weapon abilities as swift action. At 15th level, it's a free action. Swift action you can use once per round, and it's basically instant once per round. Free action, you can use it as often as you like, and it takes no time whatsoever. Okay, next. Okay. So basically, you can put your bomb on your weapon if you wanted to be sort of a melee alchemist. Or a full metal alchemist. Poison resistance and immunity as before. For this subclass, directed blast. You can see the description there. You can turn it into a cone. Staggering blast. At 10th level, if you critically hit, the creature that's hit by the bomb is staggered for d4 plus 1 rounds. So they'll be out of the fight for a while. However, with a fortitude save, it reduces the duration to 1 round. So that seems pretty good, but it's only on a critical hit. And as far as critical hit feats go, it's not bad. Again, Grenadier, not going to be the highest damage dealing class necessarily, but it has some potential and a lot of utility. I think that's the key of this class. Vivisectionist, you do the cutting. So instead of bombs, you get sneak attack. Again, you're very much like a rogue. And then what do we get? Poison resistance, poison resistance, poison immunity. As before, medical discoveries. So these ones would probably be more along the lines of cleric spells, just from guessing. And again, this is not an in-depth guide. I'm not all that interested in a vivisectionist, although this would be probably the highest damage dealing class, because you can focus on your dexterity, and a dex-based build can be very strong in regards to armor class, rogue skills, which are really grouped together nicely. And these discoveries, I'll bet you could be very, very strong as a dex focus, 2-weapon fighter, stealth build, vivisectionist. Especially with all these discoveries to buff yourself with. And you also get at 10th level advanced rogue talents, so very nice. And of course at 20th level, your grand discovery. Okay, that is probably the strongest damage dealing class, and you can still replace a rogue with them, so why not? Chirurgeon is what I would guess. So you get your bombs. What else do you get? You get a mutagen. Okay, that's typical. Discoveries. Infused curative. So you can use this on other people. Your focus is going to be using your discoveries on your friends. So you're basically becoming sort of a cross-class cleric here. Skill focus, lore, religion, yeah, power over death, breath of life, which is like a low power raised dead. So yeah, you're a halfway cleric when it comes to healing. You're a healer there as a chirurgeon. Vivisectionist looks like it's going to be the strongest. Grenadier focuses on throwing bombs all the time, and your standard alchemist is a rogue, basically, that replaces sneak attack with throwing bombs. Barbarian. Little need to explain this one for anyone that's familiar with D&D style games. You basically get the idea to rage, and you can become quite strong as a damage dealer in rage and out of rage. You get fast movement at first level, which is helpful. You can pause to see what that does. Gives you another 10 feet on your move speed, and you get these rage powers every other level. By the way, Pathfinder, you get a feat every other level for every class. So you're going to get lots of feats and abilities as you progress your character here. It's one of the great things about Pathfinder. Danger Sense gives you basically the ability to ignore traps and rush through them. That becomes stronger and more reliable as you level, but it's still no replacement for a quality rogue, in my humble opinion. But the meat shield is strong with your standard barbarian, and you also get damage reduction, which starts at, what is that, 7th level, and at a 1 DR. I mean, it's nice, but it doesn't make all that much of a difference. Although once you unlock it, you can spend feats every other level to improve it to where it is slightly more significant. It's no replacement for a decent armored class, however. Armored Hulk! Having said that, this barbarian focuses more on armor class. So as you can see, at 2nd level you get armored swiftness. You can move a little bit better, and then improved armor swiftness later on. Your rage you get less often, so that's a thing. And then you have your regular rage powers. Resilience of steel. Was I right on that? No, never mind. Your rage is just fine. It's normal. You just don't get the uncanny dodge. So I would actually choose this over the standard barbarian, because I don't care all that much about uncanny dodge. Resilience of steel. You get a +1 to AC that applies only on critically hit confirmation rolls. So basically you have slightly less of a chance to get critically hit. Yeah, it's fairly useless, I would say. But if you are playing on challenging difficulty, this could be a thing to just help you have a reliable amount of damage soak, and then you get your regular damage reduction, and Indomitable Will, which can be quite helpful around the level where everybody is throwing mind-affecting spells at you. Mad Dog! What do we do here? Pack Tactics. Ooh, you get a War Beast? Oh, heck yes. Animal Companions, very, very useful in this game. And you get an Animal Companion as a Druid of the same level. So that is extremely, extremely useful. A standard Barbarian, if you use your feats and your stats properly, can be quite good at dealing damage, and to throw an Animal Companion into the mix, especially if you have someone who can enlarge and buff that Animal Companion, such as a Druid in the party, that can be quite good. I'm thinking like a Druid, conjuration-based sorcerer, which we'll get to. It's a character class I'm very excited to have in my party that I'm playing through the main game with, and a Mad Dog for some melee prowess and frontline damage, and then maybe someone who has a decent armor class. That could be a very, very strong combination. So what else do we get? Ferocious Fetch. So you get improved trip. My goodness, that's very, very good at 5th level. Yeah, it's as improved trip. So, very good. I would recommend this over the standard Barbarian, and personally I think over the Armored Hulk as well. You also get your Danger Sense at 14th level. Throat Cutter. Whenever your War Beast succeeds at a Bull Rush, Overrun, or Trip over someone that's threatened by you, you can take an attack of opportunity. And at 14th level, that attack of opportunity is going to deal some serious damage if you've built your character properly. So, a build for the Mad Dog, I would go super heavy strength build. And just not worry about defensive abilities such as armor class. I would max out that strength and maybe put some points into con just in case you get targeted, because what you'll do is allow your Animal Companion to wade into the melee and then follow immediately after, taking advantage of the fact that the AI targets whoever is closest to them at the moment when combat engages. And that's actually good because they don't run across the battlefield provoking attacks of opportunity. A few points in dexterity, and the combat reflexes feat could be quite good. And then maybe a fighter level, or a few fighter levels even, and the basically the improved Animal Companion feat, where your Animal Companion continues to scale in levels, even if you don't always take a level that gives you that Animal Companion, could be a good build for this character. So you get your rage powers, you get your rage abilities, you get your damage reduction. This is a quite good class. I would love to play this class. Animal Companions, lots of fun, good for role play, just, you know, eye candy. They're cool looking animals and there's a lot to choose from. And combat maneuver with your trip, if you max out your strength, or you could even go for a dex build, but I wouldn't personally recommend it. You could probably make a great dex build, 2-weapon fighting barbarian. It could happen, but I would go heavy armor and strength. Invulnerable Rager. Seems like this one's going to have great rage abilities. As you can see, they get a lot of damage reduction early on. So this could be your ticket. By level 20, you have DR equal to half of your barbarian level. So that would be a 10 DR at level 20. That's not insignificant. That could protect you from a lot of things, but you're going to be seeing some very, very high damage numbers at that point. So it's a lot better than what the barbarian normally gets, but it's not enough to stand on its own. What else do you get? You get your rage powers. You get your typical barbarian rage. You get your fast movement, indomitable will as barbarian, extreme endurance. At 3rd level, you get a point of fire, cold resistance, and at 6th level and every 3 levels afterward, they go up by 1. So that's not insignificant, as I said before, but probably more useful to a troll than a human. So this would be your way of making your barbarian into a true meat sponge. Think a dex build barbarian or a con and strength build barbarian with some heavy armor. Is what I'm thinking. However, your armor class is not going to be as good as a fighter who's specialized in armor class. So your main deal is just soaking up damage that comes through. Bard, a great multi-class character that just seems to be outperformed by other characters. However, if you don't know what a bard does, they sing different songs. You can pause to see what these do for you. Basically, they can get your people to be a bit better, and they're especially good for skill checks, and they can kind of push your team over the top. If you have a group that's really focused on, say, melee attacks, Inspire Courage can be quite good, because that extra 5, 10, 15% later on chance to hit can really make a difference. Let's say you have just enough attack score to have a 5% chance to hit. With a +3, you're up to a 20% chance to hit, which is actually 400% more hits, which means 400% more damage than you would do without that bard song. So it can be good for pushing people over the top, especially since they get spells that focus on illusion and sonic effects that often have a stun involved, and buffing your party. Again, increasing chance to hit, damage, and resistance to a few things such as mind-affecting spells. The main deal with a bard, though, is just pushing your whole group over that top to where you have just enough better stats that you can be much more reliable with your other characters. This is a group-based class in the standard form. And you can also replace a rogue with them when it comes to opening locks and traps, dealing with traps. And also, they're the best at knowledge and lore. So they really are a fantastic utility character. No one is more useful for things outside of combat, or for just giving the rest of your team that edge. Having said all of that, here are the things you get. Bardic knowledge, as I mentioned before, cantrips as a sorcerer, bard proficiencies you can see, and then well-versed, resistant to the bardic performance of others. Oh, good! Like, that happens very often. It doesn't. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough. I still have some death in my throat. Okay, moving on. Inspire Greatness. You can see what that does. You can pause if you need to. Soothing Performance. Again, these things don't change the world for you. Inspire Heroics. That can be quite good. Dodge bonus to AC, as you know, stacks with all other bonuses, including itself. It's the best kind of bonus to AC, unless you're caught flat-footed or helpless. Fascinate, useless. Dirge of Doom, meh. Frightening Tune, meh. A lot of these things, they would be good if the enemy didn't make their save all the time. Bardic Performance does a move action. Bardic Performance as a swift action. And ultimately, Deadly Performance, which, you know, that could be pretty good, especially if you build your bard for charisma. So that's the standard bard. Archaeologist, it's Indiana Jones. So instead of your bard's songs, you get Archaeologist luck, which applies to you. And then you get your bard talents as, basically you can have rogue talents as well. and danger sense. Basically, you get a rogue's skill outside of combat and a few bonuses that'll make you personally a little bit more powerful, but you're not quite so helpful to your teammates. Thundercaller, you get bound to the land. So you're better at the lore, and then later on, you get that same jack of all trades. The regular bard education perks. Thundercall is your unique ability, and you can see what that does. It makes you more effective as a damage dealer, sort of along the lines of a wide AoE kind of alchemist idea. Not quite as strong as a straight magic user, sorcerer, wizard kind of deal, but not useless. Bardic performance, quickness, storm call, another unique thing that you get, and you can see what that does. More damage dealing, AoE, crowd control, fascinate, incite rage in enemies, and deadly performance as a regular bard. Flamecaller, you get a lot of your regular bard abilities, bard knowledge, yep, skills. It looks like it's a little bit longer between your bard talents. Nope, that's the same every 4 levels. Well versed. Your deal here is fire dance. You can see what that does. Gives you some fire resistance to the whole party. That can be quite helpful if you have a twitchy mage in your party or a red dragon disciple. And what else do you get? Fan the flames. So you get some fire spells. Neat. Next, cleric. I hope you guys know what this does. It's the simplest class in the game as far as planning out your progression. Basically, you just need to know who you're going to worship and what your skills are going to be, your feats, and then the spells line themselves out. You can look up a guide for cleric spells if you're interested in whether or not to add them to your party. They're one of the most useful character classes across the board. I really probably don't need to explain, but basically they're the best at healing. You can see that in Pathfinder they get their deity, and then they also get channel energy, positive or negative depending upon their alignment, which can heal and harm undead, or harm living and heal undead depending upon which type of energy it is. Crusader. So what do they say about the Crusader? Militant arm. So probably a little bit more combat ability for yourself. You get your channel energy, you get Crusader bonus feats. There you go. So you're a little bit more of a fighter as a Crusader. Herald Caller. You get your channel energy, call heralds. Oh, cool. So you can spontaneously cast conjuration spells. That's quite good. Conjuration spells being very strong in Pathfinder Kingmaker, as there's no limit to the amount of summoned creatures unless specifically stated in the spell description, and they tend to last for a bit shorter of a time, i.e. generally 1 round per level of the caster for most conjuration summoning spells. So that can be quite good, especially if you select the feats spell focus, conjuration, and then the summoning improvement feats that you'll find after putting that spell focus point into a useless spell focus, because how many conjuration spells have a saving throw? However, after that, there's some really good feats. You can see you get your deity selection, dedicated summoner. Yeah, you get less of the martial prowess and more summoning. Ecclesiarch, that is a magician of the community. You very much focus on healing. So you can see the descriptions here. You got your deity, you got your channel energy, you get bonded holy symbol, which can be quite good. Blessing of the faithful, you can see the description there. Ecclesiarch proficiencies, you don't get armor or shields, and domain mastery. So basically you're much better at healing and you focus on being a support character as the Ecclesiarch and less of a frontline fighter. Druids, very strong. And hold on just a minute, I'll be back with you guys in just a second. Okay, welcome back. That was a quality morning dookie. Now, we're on to the Druid. We talked about the animal companion, quite good. What else do you get? You gotta be some kind of neutral. There's your proficiencies. Not the best, but easily overcome, especially when you transmute yourself. Spontaneous summoning. You can use that as in the description. Quite useful. Again, summoning, very useful in this game. Nature Sense, not bad. You want to have one person with fantastic lore nature in your party at all times, because hunting is a thing, and it can really help you when you're resting outside of a dungeon, which happens a lot. Wild Shape Wolf, Venom Immunity. Again, very useful, especially as early as level 9. I know for a fact that at level 9, you're going to be fighting a lot of things that can poison you. Resist Nature's Lure. There you go. In this game, you will be fighting a lot of Fae and plants. Wild Shape Leopard. Wild Shape Small Elemental. Bear. Medium Elemental. Smilodon, which is basically a saber-toothed tiger. Large Elemental. Shambling Mound. And eventually, Huge Elemental. To be able at level 12 to turn into a huge object with reach, which is modeled in the game, and commensurate increase to your stats. If you have a decent intelligence and strength or dex score, and have the improved trip combat maneuver feat, you have to select the feat in order to be able to use the combat maneuver. Just so you know, this can be quite good. So at level 12, that's very, very strong, especially since as a transformed human with the Wild Shape ability, Enlarge Person works on you. So with the spell Enlarge Person, you can become a, what's bigger than huge? Gigantic? Colossal? I don't know. Very, very large, with massive bonuses to your reach. Very strong. Very strong. Blight Druid. This one, you're just kind of more of a douche to people. So, let's just see what you can do here. Nature Sense as Druid. Wild Shape. Yep, we got that. But what's this? Blight Blooded. Immunity to disease instead of immunity to poison. Not bad. Also, I'm used to sicken or nauseated. That's quite good. So Stinking Cloud you can use as much as you want. Plague Bearer. Anyone that touches you with a touch has to make a fort save, DC 10 plus half druid level plus wisdom mod, or become nauseated. So you really, really stink. And they also contract bubonic plague as a contagion spell. Wow. But if they make their save, they're immune for 24 hours to the effect. So you get one shot. Do not miss your chance to splow and become like a boomer on them and just make everything gross. Miasma. You see what that does? There we go. So basically, you stink, and then you get your wild shapes. Defender of the True World. This can be quite good, because you've got some abilities that help you against the Fae, and you will be facing the Fae in the campaign. Enemy of the Fae, as you see. Fae Bane, as you see. Fae Stalker, again, you can read the description, pause the video. Gives you bonuses against Fae. You still get your wild shapes and your spontaneous casting, so that can be quite useful. Immune to mind affecting of Fae. Again, that is something you'll use in the campaign. Wild Shape Wolf, Nature Sense. Fey Speaker. Okay, what do you get? Nature Sense. Wild Shape, Venom Immunity as regular Druid. Fey Magic. Ooh, so you can read the description. You get Fey Magic instead of... what would this be? I guess resist nature's lure and some of your wild shapes? Yeah, some of your wild shapes are gone. Or they're pushed... no, they're still there. I honestly don't know what you lose in trade for that. I'm sure you lose something. But there you go. You get some Fey Magic. Those can be very useful. Fighters. I shouldn't need to explain the typical fighter. You just get better at your regular attack and dealing with regular attacks than the average person, to the point where it can be quite strong within a limited scope. And then these secondary classes try and focus it in one direction of attack or defense or single weapon fighting. There's your single weapon duelist kind of deal. Tower shield specialist probably needs no explanation. You focus on having the best physical defenses, and two-handed fighter, that's going to be your cut people in half kind of fighter. You can pause to see the descriptions on these. Fighters are a fairly standard class that should be pretty easily understood. The standard fighter gets a bonus feat every other level. That means that a fighter in Pathfinder gets a feat for every character level. That's pretty good. You also get bravery. You can see the description on that. You get your armor training. Again, pause to read description. Should be fairly easily understood. Weapon training. There you go. And more weapon training. And then at 20th level, weapon mastery. That can be quite good in the damage dealing department. For example, a scythe deals a ×4 physical damage on a critical hit. With this, it would be ×5. Or a rapier that gets a critical of, is it 19 to 20 or 18 to 20 in this game? I'm not sure, but it has a good critical threat range at a ×2 critical. Well, now it's got a good critical threat range at a ×3 critical. You get the idea. More damage on critical hits. Aldori Defender. There's the description. Now, you are playing as someone who begins the game as being sent out and initially sponsored by the Aldori Sword Lords. So for you to play an Aldori Defender could be an interesting role play. And you can pause to read the description of that. This would be your duelist class if you're used to that. In fact, if we look at prestige classes, there's the duelist. So you can be an Aldori Defender plus duelist. That could be quite strong. Here are their abilities. You can see that they go a while between bonus feats for a while. But what do they get? They get bravery. They get defensive parry. See the description on that? Bonus to AC against melee attacks if you make a full attack with a dueling sword. This bonus increases by +1 every 4 levels after 3rd. Quite good for the mobility-based armor class. Weapon training as fighter. Weapon training as fighter. Disarming strike. You can see the description on that. Not bad. Steel net. Decent. When fighting defensively, you get less of a penalty on your attacks, and your dodge bonus is increased. So a +2 on your attacks, basically, and a +2 on your AC. That's call it a 20% change in your combat efficiency for melee fighting when you are fighting defensively. So that can be quite good, especially when combined with feats that improve defensive fighting. And counterattack. Attack of opportunity on anyone who hits you with a melee, as long as they're in your reach. So that can be good. And then eventually, armor mastery and weapon mastery. Tower Shield Specialist. You get really good at using tower shields. You can read that one by pausing. Armor training, good. Tower shield training, unique feature of this class. You can read the description there. Basically, it makes you better with tower shields. Expect to have a fantastic armor class with this class. And then Tower Shield Specialist, Tower Shield Defense, Total Cover, Tower Shield Evasion, pretty neat, and Tower Shield Improved Evasion. So, this is your ultimate frontline armored meat shield. Two-handed fighter. Guess what they do? As fighter with strong grip, quite good, quite good. Two-handed weapon training. Again, good damage bonus. An attack, which it gives you more damage over time. Overhand chop. Let's see what that does. Add double your strength bonus to attack rolls. Ooh. Ooh. If it's only for one attack. Meh. Backswing, there's your multiple attacks bonus at the appropriate time, level 7. So this overhand chop you'll be using constantly until you get to level 6, and then right away at level 7 you get something for multiple attacks. Pile driver. Let's see. You get a free bull rusher trip when you make a hit. That's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Especially if it's a trip, because you can get that pile driver trip for free, and then when they stand up, you get an attack of opportunity. And another pile driver. Then you get greater power attack. Just incredible. This is a strength build, two-handed fighter. Can deal some serious damage. And then eventually you get Devastating Blow, which gives you, let's see. Okay, so Devastating Blow, basically, you can make one attack that's almost guaranteed to be a critical hit. And then Weapon Mastery. I'm not sure how much that's actually going to improve your damage over time. Things like that I tend to question. But again, with Weapon Mastery and a Scythe and some feats to back up your critical prowess, you could be dishing out some serious damage with Devastating Blow. Inquisitor. This is basically, it's a spontaneous caster that has a little bit better of frontline performance, or let's say melee combat performance in general. Interesting class and quite diverse from other classes that you may have seen. Let's get into what they do. So you get a domain, you get a deity. Here are your proficiencies. You get simple weapons along with longbow, shortbow, the favored weapon of your deity, light armor and medium armor, and regular shields excluding tower shields. And then spells as cleric, only again spontaneously cast. You get Stern Gaze. Let's see. Okay. You get a bonus to Intimidation and Perception equal to half your Inquisitor level rounded up. So, that's good. Bane. You can give the Bane quality to one of your weapons for a limited number of time. Judgments. It's good to read the description on these. Swift action, you can do a judgment. At first level, you can use it once per day. At fourth and every 3 levels, you can use an additional time. It lasts until the combat ends, at which point the bonuses immediately end. You can make a certain type of judgment that you'll read here. So you get some more judgments. You get a second judgment. So you can have 2 judgments going at the same time, and then a 3rd judgment eventually. Basically, these are going to be buffs to your party and debuffs to the enemy that will help turn the tide in your favor. Almost like a bard in a way, but a more... This is like a spontaneous casting cleric / bard, if that makes any sense. Cunning initiative. Adds wisdom to initiative, along with the dex mod. Solo tactics, quite good. Any teamwork feats you select for your own character, treat all of your party members as having that feat for purposes of giving you the benefit of that teamwork feat. Basically, you can have all the teamwork feats and have them work for you, and you don't need your allies to have those. You just need to be standing near them. And then Stalwart. If you make a fort or will saving throw against an attack that has a half damage... Okay. So you can make a fort or will saving throw like evasion. It's like evasion with fortitude and will. And in fact, if you get to level 11 as an Inquisitor and then take a class that gets evasion, such as a monk or a rogue, especially some of those cool rogue subclasses, you could have a saving throw for everyone. Now let's say you have, well, suffice to say, quite handy. Teamwork feats every 3 levels, so you get all the teamwork feats eventually. It's quite good. And then True Judgment. You can call True Judgment down on a foe. Use your judgment. You can have True Judgment as a swift action. You make a single attack. If the attack hits, it deals normal damage, and they have to make a fort save or die. DC equal 10 plus half level plus wisdom modifier as you do. And then after you've used it that one time, that creature doesn't get threatened by it anymore for that day. So along the same lines as a lot of those instant death feats you get at 20th level for other classes. A solid multi-class for the Inquisitor could be, if we look at Monk, when do you get evasion? 2nd level. So excuse me. 2 levels of Monk after getting 11 levels of Inquisitor could be quite good as far as your ability to avoid enemy spells and spell-like effects. So that's a decent multi-class idea. The main focus of the Inquisitor, excuse me, they're almost like a mage hunter when it comes down to it, and those cleric spells and abilities can really buff up their power. They're a spicy, interesting class. Very, very well worth looking into in depth, but not today. Monster Tactician, you are an Inquisitor that focuses on summoning monsters, as you see. And then your teamwork feats can apply to your monsters. Yes. So that is really, really good. Summon Tactics, you can read the description there. It gives all of your teamwork feats to your summoned monsters. So let's say that you use Raise Dead to raise a D4 plus 2 skeleton warriors, which is quite good. And it's even faster casting than most of your other summoning spells. You don't see it here, but it's one of your cleric spells you can get. What is it, 3rd level, I think? A lot better than a fireball in my book, but that's just me. So you've got this meat shield or maybe a jerky shield at this point, of reanimated corpses. In a good way, that all have your teamwork feats, so they can get the sneak attack damage teamwork feat, they can get the armor class damage, they can get the combat maneuver bonuses feats, and share all those with you. Monster Tactician is extremely powerful consistently, as you can see. So that is that. What else do you get? You get your teamwork feats, you get Detect Magic. So very, very strong. And what do you lose? You lose your judgments. So you only get a judgment at level 19. I would trade summoning powers and summoning teamwork feats for your judgments any day, but that's just me. Tactical leader. This focuses more on sharing your abilities with your teammates. Yeah, that's what that is. So you can see what their abilities are, but basically they're a typical tactical or inquisitor, only they focus more on being helpful to a party of adventurers, sharing those teamwork feats. Sacred Huntsmaster. You get an animal companion. That's all I need to say. Very good. And you're also going to be probably sharing those teamwork feats with your animal companion. You also get favorite enemy as a druid, or sorry, as a ranger. What else do you get? You don't get as many judgments. You get one at level 19, as with the monster tactician. So what else do we got? Solo tactics, yeah. Stalwart, that's normal. Bane, yeah. Okay. So you get an animal companion. At 3rd level, you give your teamwork feats to your animal companion. That's pretty good. I would go with a monster tactician just because summoning is really, really strong in the game. But the animal companion can also be quite good. Magus. This is your fighter mage. So they get a medium BAB, which means that their chance to hit in melee combat or ranged combat for that matter, and we'll get to that with the Eldritch Archer. This is probably the most reliable one so far, and I'll get into why in a moment. But the Magus is basically your fighter mage base class. Here are your abilities: cantrips as a sorcerer or mage. I think this is sorcerer. Magus, standard Magus is intelligence based casting as a mage. Elder Scion is charisma based, and as a sorcerer, Sword Saint we'll get into, an Eldritch Archer casts intelligence based and prepared as a mage. So standard Magus, you can enchant your weapon to have some additional properties via your arcane pool, which is a separate pool of points you can spend apart from your spells. So you can see what that does. To make things simple, basically you add extra enchantments onto your weapon. Extra enhancement bonus, +1 to hit and damage, that scales up as you gain levels, as you can see in the description. And you can also add things like Bane Weapon or Axiomatic, things that give you damage bonuses or the ability to break through damage resistance against certain creatures. Spell combat, you can dual wield magic as a secondary weapon. So you can cast a spell in your offhand while you attack with your main hand. Seems pretty good, but you still provoke attacks of opportunity, so that's a thing. You need a good concentration score, which is not a skill in this game. It's a score that goes up with half your level plus your spell casting stat. So it'd be intelligence for this one, charisma for this one, not sure on this one, and then intelligence for that one. Magus Arcana. Yeah, you get some neat Magus Arcana. Let's see. Yeah, basically you just have to read those as you unlock them. The idea is they make you just a little bit better of a fighter mage. Spell Recall, pretty good. You can read the description of that. You can get back spells that way. Bonus Magus Feat, bonus feats. Arcane Medium Armor. You can cast with no casting penalty in medium armor. Although if you're using a shield, you can still get a penalty there. Fighter Training. Not bad. and then arcane heavy armor at level 13. Won't that be fun? So as arcane medium only for heavy armor. Other than that, yeah, you're a typical fighter mage, and you're actually one class. So when you dual class, it's just a little bit cleaner if you want to go into things like Eldritch Knight. Okay, Eldritch Scion. This one, again, it's basically a sorcerer version of the Magus base class. Really needs no further description. And also, you can get the Sorcerer Bloodline perks, which are quite spicy and diverse and delicious. I'm a huge fan of Dragon Bloodline, but that's just me. I like those stat bonuses. Sword Saint. What do we do here? I'm thinking we get better this kind of arcane enhancement. Let's take a look. You get your spell combat, you get your arcane, you get canny defense. When wearing light or no armor, wielding your chosen weapon, not using a shield, you get 1 point of intelligence bonus, if you have any, per Magus level as a dodge bonus to AC. And as with other dodge bonuses, you lose that if you're flat-footed or helpless. So, you want to be an intelligence build Magus and have a decent AC. There you go. Sword Saint. The trade-off, you're relying on dodge bonus, which is good for some things and not others. You have a chance to lose it in some situations. You get superior reflexes. Let's see. So this is combat reflexes using the intelligence modifier instead of the dex modifier. And it stacks with combat reflexes. So if you can put yourself in a situation, say having a reach weapon or being the size of something that has very good reach, I wonder if you can be a Sword Saint focusing on unarmed attacks. Take a few levels in Monk, and by that I mean like 2, and then focus on transforming yourself into something that has either natural weapons or unarmed strike. That could be quite good. Perfect reflexes. You always roll a 20 on initiative. You know, in this game, initiative just doesn't seem to make all that much of a difference, because it is real time. So basically, it can earn you about 3 seconds tops on the enemy at the beginning of combat. You'll get the first hit in, you'll get the first spell off. It can help a little bit, but it's not necessary. Spell Strike. Look at that. My goodness. Okay. Okay, so unlike with the Magus, who wields magic in one hand with your touch attacks and a weapon in the other, the Sword Saint focuses the magic through the weapon itself. So if you hit with the weapon, the spell triggers. You also get Perfect Strike, where you can maximize damage by spending a point from your arcane pool. That can be decent. Fighter Training as Magus. Critical Perfection. Add your intelligence bonus on critical hit confirmation. And you can use your level in place of BAB, because again, you're getting a medium BAB here. But you can treat yourself as a fighter for feat selection, basically, is what that says, at level 9. Lethal Focus. Add your intelligence damage when you're attacking someone who's flat-footed, right? So flanking or helpless. You add your intelligence modifier on damage with your chosen weapon. Sorry, not flanking. That would be if they're unaware of you or helpless. Counter-Strike. But if they cast defensively, you can still attack of opportunity after the spell is complete. Okay. Weapon Mastery. increased damage multiplier, and increased critical damage multiplier. Did I say that right? No. Increased critical damage multiplier and automatically confirm critical hits. What else do you get? Bonus matches feats, surprising no one. Okay. Eldritch Archer. This is the one that I said is the most useful, and here's the reason why. Let's say a solid 85 to 90% of your battles, you can have one person fighting on the front line and everyone else attacking with ranged attacks and not being threatened by the enemy. That's just the way that the AI works in this game. That's the way the positioning works in this game. Most of the time, you don't need a really strong front line. Having said that, Eldritch Archers can deal a lot of damage and use just enough spells to make that front line very solid and dish out huge amounts of punishment. And also, with spells like Web, you can make it much more difficult for the enemy to close distance. Suffice to say, Eldritch Archer, very useful in the tactics of this game. So, and on top of that, they're just cool. They're really cool. Arcane Archer was a class in, say, Neverwinter Nights that I really enjoyed. They can deal some serious punishment from long range, and the Eldritch Archer in Pathfinder is that class perfected. So, as with the Sword Saint, you can deliver your spells through your arrows. So you attack with arrows, and at the same time you cast spells and deliver those spells to the target of your ranged attacks. You mean fireball? You mean web arrow? How cool is that? Yeah, pretty neat. Scorching ray arrow? You bet. Okay, what else do we have? Spell recall, as Magus, bonus Magus feats, surprising no one. Arcane medium armor, fighter training, arcane heavy armor. Again, these are all the same things. Improved spell combat. Yeah. So, yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's, as I mentioned, it's just a ranged combat version of your typical Magus, using your intelligence modifier. So you would probably want to cross stat between, you want about, let's say, a 14 or 16 intelligence at probably the most, and then focus on that dexterity to give yourself really good ranged combat abilities, and then maybe a few points in strength for using composite bows. I don't know. It's kind of, you don't need defensive stats. You don't need a great armor class. You just need to not be focused by the enemy, which is, again, easy to do in the way that this game works for the AI. For the most part, there are some scripted battles where the enemy is going to attack you from two sides, so you need to be aware of those. You need to save often and adjust your strategies for that. But having said that, that's the Eldritch Archer. Okay, where are we now? Monk. This class needs no real explanation. It's very similar to the typical D&D monk, and I'll show you the skills here. There's quite a lot of them, so you can look at these for yourself. You get your bonus feats, you get your evasion, you get your Kai pool and Kai powers. Now these are some things that are more D&D 3.5 and beyond, and actually these come directly from the Pathfinder core rules, of course. So if you're familiar with those, But basically, you get some points you can use for what are essentially spell-like abilities, or temporary bonuses, special attacks, things like that. Kai Strike Magic, your unarmed strikes improve to be treated as weapons of a certain type for overcoming damage resistance and hardness. Style strikes, you get different styles in this game that give you benefits to your, basically, for the most part, your attack or defense abilities in melee combat. Flurry of Blows is the key feature of the monk class. You can make more attacks per round than any other class, and you don't need to put a bunch of points into two-weapon fighting in order to accomplish that. Yeah, that's one of the primary features of the monk. You get to make lots and lots of attacks, and then your defensive abilities mostly come from dexterity and wisdom, and then your offensive abilities are going to vary based upon the feats that you select and the weapons you use. And then you gain defensive abilities as you level up. There's Perfect Self, Kai Power, that is an encouragement to put all 20 levels into monk, DR10/chaotic, and let's see, that is about it for the monk. Very strong class, focuses on being decent against everyone, I think would be a good description of this class, but not the strongest in the melee category for the first few levels. Once you get to very high levels, a monk can be extremely powerful because their abilities tend to scale fairly well. Scaled Fist. This is basically a Dragon Disciple monk. So you get that Draconic Metal, Dragon Resistances, you get Draconic Heritage as a sorcerer that chooses the Draconic Bloodline. What else do you get? That's about it. You're basically... And then you get the Scaled Fist bonus feats, which are a little bit different than the typical monk bonus feats. But basically, you get that Draconic Heritage. That's a key feature, and it is quite good. Well worth looking into when we get into the Sorcerer. Sensei is basically the Bard monk. You focus more. There you go. You can get Inspire Competence, which is not bad at all, and then you can get Inspire Courage, which is quite good. So that's there's really not much more to say. And then there's the traditional monk, which functions much more like the older style D&D monk class, and you can see what those are. I could go into a long time describing the monk, but basically you just become more and more resistant to every form of attack against you, and you maintain a solid amount of attacks per round. One of the challenging factors with a monk is balancing your defensive and offensive abilities. You can have a monk that has incredible wisdom score and good dexterity, and just can't be touched for the most part, but they just don't deal quite enough damage. So I think that's one of the things with the monk, is you can deal lots of damage, or you can build them to be resilient against everything. But if you try and land in the middle ground, they're sort of unexceptional. But that's just my opinion. You guys can probably make the monk class work a lot better than the way I'm making it sound. Paladin! Very good. Key changes from games like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, the old D&D style games that I grew up on, is your Smite Evil works differently. As you can see in the description, it lasts until your target of Smite Evil dies, or until you select a new target. So it's very, very good. It's not just a one and done ability. It's a fire and forget that makes you a juggernaut of destruction against that one target who happens to be evil. What else? You get your Hour of Courage, then Resolve. You get Mark of Justice. When you have Smite Evil, your allies gain AC deflection bonus equal to Charisma. So your allies get that deflection bonus as well as you. Aura of Faith. Your weapons are good aligned. And anybody within 10 feet also gets their weapons like good aligned weapons. So, for the purposes of overcoming, say, demons, damage resistance is often either Cold Iron or /good. So a good aligned weapon can cut through that damage resistance. Aura of Righteousness. Your allies get a +4 on saving throw against compulsion effects. So like charm, domination, those kinds of things. Holy Champion. 20th level, DR increases 10/evil, and when you channel positive or use lay on hands, you deal the maximum amount possible. That is quite good. One of the things I haven't mentioned yet about the Paladin is you get channel energy, which deals an AoE healing effect that scales with your level and is based on your charisma for uses per day, so very good, along with lay on hands, which is, as you know, a powerful healing effect. The Paladin, to put things very simply, is a fighter whose combat efficiency is second to perhaps only a specialist fighter, and not far behind. And against evil opponents, he's absolutely unmatched in his ability to tear them to pieces. However, your charisma score is also going to be important. So you'll have to spread, either your dexterity or strength depending upon your build, because a dex bow-wielding paladin can still be quite good. You don't necessarily have to use that two-handed weapon and strength score. As a frontline meat shield, you can be quite good as well, and you get very, very strong healing abilities, especially if you put points into charisma. Along with that, you get a divine weapon bond, and it goes from a +1 at 5th level, and then every 1, 2, 3 levels thereafter it goes up by another +1, and it's basically as a magus. You make your weapon better for a certain number of rounds per day. Yeah. And more uses for Divine Weapon Bond. That is in place of your pen and paper mount, your special horsey that you can get. You get the Weapon Bond instead, which is quite good, especially in the meta of this game. Once again, this is just a very, very strong melee presence with solid healing abilities. Is this a replacement for a cleric or a druid? I would say no, but it's a fantastic complement to them. Can this be your 1 or 2 frontline fighters? Yes. Is this a great class for the story purposes? Absolutely, if you're willing to play lawful good, which can be a bit constrictive in terms of the story of this game, because you're going to want to choose some chaotic good or some chaotic or neutral actions, decisions, and you need to balance those carefully in order to keep your character on the path of lawful good, because of course as soon as you step off of that restrictive alignment of lawful good, you're not a paladin anymore. You're just a fighter with less bonus feats. So, to get into the subclasses, Divine Hunter, let's see the description. So this is the ranged paladin. Again, bow-wielding paladin, quite good. I didn't mention the mercies when I was talking about base paladin class. Your lay on hands can remove effects from enemies, such as, let's see, right here. Yeah, basically they function as spells like Remove Fear or Lesser Restoration in a limited scope that ends up being quite good as you continue to get them. Divine Hunter Bond. It's for your ranged weapon. So if you ever wanted to take all of your paladin feats and apply them to a ranged weapon, this is the one. It's, without getting into the details here, Aura of Clear Sight, +4 in saving throws against blindness. Aura of Righteousness, yeah, we've got that one. Holy Champion. Let's see, yeah, we've got that one. So, you may have been noticing a theme. Almost every class gets a very powerful class-specific ability at level 20. So it's worth it to not multi-class. Previously, D&D style games, including pen and paper, tended to balance classes by giving a lot of power to a first level of a certain class, saving throws, abilities, and then they would discourage you from having, say, more than one subclass. So you'd have, say a bunch of levels in Barbarian, but one level of Fighter, so you could pick up that weapon focus, or the improved weapon focus, whatever, weapon specialization, that's right, that fighters get. Or a bunch of levels in Fighter, but one level in Barbarian, so you could get that movement bonus. Or, a bunch of levels in Paladin, and then way later on, 2 levels in Monk, so you can just not take damage from spells. But there's this 20th level feature that's added to a lot of classes to encourage you to get up to 20 with one class, and that's a good thing. It sort of levels the playing field between multi-classing or focusing on that one class, and that's a good thing. It gives you the ability to be effective, and that's one of the main things, to get off on a tangent just a little bit here. That's one of the main features of Pathfinder, is it really opens up your ability to make the character you want to make and not have to worry about if they're going to be effective in combat. Almost every class has its place in combat. There's a lot more ways to build. As you can see here with the Paladin, having Divine Hunter, where you can use ranged attacks. Again, in the meta of this game, quite good. But in my mind, also very fun as well. I love the idea of, before the enemy even gets to me, unleashing ridiculous amounts of damage to his squishiest team members in the first round. And there's nothing better than ranged attacks for that. Hospitaller. This one probably needs no introduction. This really focuses on the Paladin's healing abilities in trade for what? Let's see. Giving aid and succor to those in need. That's good. The little succor you get, like at the doctor's office, is just a nice little treat. Let's see. Deity selection. Paladin proficiencies. You gotta be lawful good. Yeah, we know that. Divine grace. Oh, I didn't mention before that you get divine grace and divine health. As you can see, a Divine Grace at 2nd level adds your Charisma modifier to all saving throws. One of the strongest 2nd level abilities in the game. Along with the Monks or Rogues' 2nd level ability of Evasion. Yes, quite good. Then Divine Health, immune to all diseases. All diseases. Quite good. 3rd level, you get Channel Positive Energy. And let's see, Divine Weapon Bond, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So you're just a little bit better at laying on your hands and channeling energy. Divine Guardian. Smite. Mercy. Divine Weapon Bond. Let's see, Divine Guardian. Let's see. So the Divine Guardian, if you ever want to build a Paladin that doesn't care about your Wisdom score, well, good news. Actually, I think with Paladins and Pathfinder, spellcasting is based on Charisma. Pretty sure, which is good, because Wisdom was always a dump stat anyway. One of the downsides to the Paladin traditionally was you wanted to put points in like Strength, Dex, Wisdom, Charisma, and then maybe some Con too. And it's like you had no dump stats. So you're a lot more able to focus on Charisma and either Strength or Dexterity here as a Paladin in Pathfinder. Now, Divine Guardian. Let's see, you get your Mercies, you get your Divine Weapon Bond, you get Divine Guardian bonus feats. So these are like fighter bonus feats. And then your auras, those are nothing new. So you get bonus feats instead of cleric spells. Divine Health. Yeah. Channel Positive Energy. So this one, less spellcasting, which can make a difference, in trade for bonus feats. The Ranger. Again, a class that needs no introduction. You eventually get an animal companion. You're very good at taking down specific enemies. and you don't get the fighter bonus feats, and you tend to be focused on mobility, i.e. light or medium armor. So you have your ranger proficiencies, again, light and medium, and shields, excluding the tower shield, and martial and simple weapons. Favorite enemy gives you bonuses against a certain class of creature, such as monstrous humanoids, goblinoids, fae, undead, those kinds of things. One at a time, with an additional one for every 4 levels. And then an additional favorite enemy starting at level 5 and every 4 levels, to the point where we're getting 2 every 4 levels from level 5 and on. Wait, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4. 5 levels, every 5 levels, my bad. At first level you get 1, and then every 5 levels, starting at level 5, you get 2, if that makes any sense. Yeah. It's weird that there's like FES and then FE, and they're the same thing. Anyway, we have combat styles. So you can focus on 2-weapon fighting or ranged combat, and you get bonus feats even if you don't meet the prerequisites based on your level. 1 every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. Favored terrain. So in a certain area, you just perform a little bit better. Camouflage, not bad. Ooh, especially that last part. If you're in your favored terrain, you can hide while in combat as a shadow dancer. That's pretty neat. Hunter's Bond. I often find, however, that you don't... in combat, you don't often need to use stealth. That's just something that I've noticed. Hunter's Bond. In other words, you just don't have time for it, and even if you do, it's just as easy to abuse the targeting mechanics of the game, the AI, as it is to use that stealth ability. Anyway, Hunter's Bond. Animal Companion. So you can get a bonus with your friends, or you get an animal companion, and because you get this at 4th level, it starts progressing as a level 1 druid when you're at level 4. In other words, you're behind by 3 levels. You can select a feat to catch up to the druid class's animal companion, and I highly recommend you do that. Or you can help your friends, but who needs that? Where are we? You get evasion at level 9, very good, and improved evasion at 16. And then you get Quarry as a standard action, so you there, please die, and then you have a move action afterward. As a standard action, you can get a +2 bonus on attack rolls, and you can automatically confirm critical hits, and you can't have any more than 1 Quarry at a time. Okay, I mean, is that better than just spending that round performing a full attack action to give yourself a plus 10% chance to hit? In most cases, no, but if you're missing all the time, again, the difference between 5% chance to hit and 15% chance to hit is 300%. In other words, 3 times more damage. So there are places where that +2 can matter, but in general, meh. And improved Quarry, you get a +4. And you can select your quarry as a free action. That's where it gets really good. Basically, at 1 person at a time, you can get a +4 to hit. That's where it gets good. Okay, freebooter. You're a pirate. There's not much more to that. You don't get the animal companion. You get some other things instead that you can see here. Where are we? Favored terrain. Yep, combat style feats. So instead of favorite enemy, you get combat style. Instead of an animal companion, you get Freebooter's Bane and Freebooter's Bond. There you go. That's what that is. You can see the description. Just gives a little bit of bonus to your allies. Flame Warden. You get some fire abilities. So you get some fire spells. You get Touch of Flame. let's see, you can make your weapon burst into flame. As a standard action, you can give it the flaming ability for 1 minute. And then later on, at 12th level, you get the flaming burst ability. Stoking the embers. It's spark of life. Burning renewal. It's restoration. If you take fire damage, ooh, this is kind of cool. If you take 10 or more points of fire damage, you can remove fatigued, shaken, sickened, exhausted, frightened, and nauseated. Additionally, you can remove a d6 of ability damage and a d6 of ability drain from the most damage score. You can only use it once each time you take fire damage. You can use it number of times per day equal to 3 plus your wisdom modifier. And if you have fire resistance, then the damage you would have taken, but that got negated by your fire resistance, still counts toward activating Burning Renewal. So, you have the Dragon Disciple in your party, because you need to have a Dragon Disciple in your party. They're just so cool. We'll talk about that later. You have him cast resistance to fire on you, and then give you a good old shot of Flaming Hands. And you get, basically, the restoration spell, and you can use that a good number of times per day. So that's pretty useful if you're getting drained. But as a ranger, you need to not get targeted. So, Phoenix Blast. If you die, your body explodes. Well, this is good for your main character. So you do a 10d6 fireball, and it doesn't harm your allies, who are instead healed 5d6. This is an ability that you would hope to never use, and it would be useless as a main character because if you die, the game's over. Okay, what else? Phoenix Rising. You get immunity to fire, and once per week, if you rise from the ashes of your own destruction, you rise from the ashes of your own destruction 1 round after dying. With half your max HP at no penalty to your levels. So Phoenix Blast is kind of useless until you get level 20 Phoenix Rising, where you just get a resurrection spell at half power once per week. Now, is that going to work in the game? Hopefully, yes. But so far, your game is immediately over at the instant that you're slain, so I don't know if Phoenix Rising functions in the game yet. It should, but that's not to say that it does, because one thing I have not mentioned about Pathfinder Kingmaker is there are quite a number of bugs in the game at the current time. However, they are being dealt with aggressively, and I'm sure that if this Phoenix Rising does not function as described for your main character, that it will be fixed. And I don't even know if it does, because I don't have a level 20 Flame Warden as a main character. Stormwalker. Oh, by the way, the Flame Warden doesn't get an animal companion, so you trade your Flame War abilities for the animal companion. Stormwalker. No animal companion. You get lightning abilities. I mean, it really is that simple. And what else do you get? Archery. Archery. Okay, so you focus on archery abilities, you don't get an animal companion, and you get lightning bolt. Let's see. Oh, you can also teleport, which is pretty cool. You get evasion level 8, you get flash step, as you can see, as a teleport spell. And what else? Immunity to electricity, surprising no one. Flash shot. You can make 2 ranged attacks after you move. And Master Hunter. There you go. Okay, Rogue needs no introduction. You get sneak attack every other level, giving you a d6 of sneak attack damage that grows, of course, as you progress in levels. You get Rogue Talents, which are bonus feats for rogues that are unique to rogues and are quite good. You get Finesse training, as you see in the description. you can add your dexterity modifier instead of your strength modifier to damage for one specific weapon type. So say daggers, or short swords, or two-handed swords, because blarg, right? But actually it's got to be something that you can use with weapon finesse. So I was lying about that last one. Unless you're giant, and then a two-handed sword is a long sword. Let's see. Danger sense. Bonus on reflex and dodge bonus against traps. So if you mess up, you're a little bit safer. I wouldn't rely on this, but sometimes you'll run right through a trap, especially if you're coming into combat, or if you're at the head of your party and you don't have the best perception score. And that can sometimes help you out in those situations. Uncanny dodge, quite good. You don't lose your dex bonus to AC if you're flanked. Let's see, if you're flat-footed. Or against invisible. Excuse me, I have the flu. What else? Evasion, obviously. You get this at level 2. So this is one of those classes that say, and it's an odd choice, but you can cross-class as a paladin rogue and get some sneak attack damage, which is totally honorable. And think of it more as precision damage. Strike at the heart of evil, and dealing sneak attack damage. I mean, precision damage. Precision. And evasion, which gives you the ability to not take damage if you make your reflex save against something that would cause you to take half damage if you make your reflex save, i.e., you can dodge fireballs. Debilitating injury. Very, very powerful ability that gets more powerful as you go. Rogues in Pathfinder are absolutely magnificent at dealing damage. And also crippling enemies. Later on you can get Crippling Strike, which I highly, highly recommend. It deals 2 points of strength damage with no save every time you succeed at a sneak attack. And if you're building your rogue properly, you're succeeding at sneak attacks all the flippin' time. It can't be explained how good that is. Let's say you're fighting a mage who has 10 strength because he's a mage. And you're flanking him, so he's constantly being sneak attacked by you. You have, let's say you have 4 attacks per round, and you're hitting him with all of them. You hit him 4 times, he's down to a 2 strength. His gear is too heavy, and 1 more hit, and he will die from strength drain. Okay, pretty good, pretty good. Let's say you're fighting a colossal owl bear. Why should I mention that? Oh, no reason. No reason at all. But let's say you're fighting a colossal owl bear. He's fighting the entire village, and so you're automatically flanking him all the time. And you have a really good chance of hitting him. It's just that, you know, he kind of has a boatload of hit points. But every time you hit him, his strength of... oh, let's say he has a 45 strength. Let's say it goes down by 2 points. You have, by this time, let's say you still have 4 attacks per round. No, you know what? You have 5. Even 6, because you're hasted. So you have 6 attacks per round, because the Dragon Disciple that you absolutely need to have in your party cast haste on you. And... you're hitting with 6 sneak attacks per round, dealing vast amounts of sneak attack damage, but also you're draining 12 strength from him every round, lowering his damage and chance to hit, and eventually even dropping that mighty beast, again, from strength drain. Rogues are good, is what I'm saying. Rogues are really, really, really freaking good, and there's a goblin, spoiler alert, there's a goblin rogue that you can recruit about halfway through the game who is fantastic. So if you're thinking that, wow, this is a great class, but I just don't want to play a rogue, well, you get a fantastic rogue in the story. And eventually you get Master Strike. Incredibly deadly with your sneak attack at level 20. You can slay the target. And just like all those other level 20 instant kills, it only gets 1 chance to work against a specific target. So, Would I go all the way to level 20 for as a rogue for Master Strike? No. But it could be pretty good. Eldritch Scoundrel. So this is a spell casting rogue, and you trade some spell casting ability, as you can see, cantrips and spells, for a reduced sneak attack progression. And you're thinking, wow, this seems awesome, except the fact that I really want to deal that sneak attack damage. Well, there is a spell, I think it's a second or third level spell. I think it's a second level spell, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's a third level. Second level, final answer. Because Flaming Arc is the same level, and that's the second level spell. There's a second level spell that gives you a sneak attack of 1/3. So 1 sneak attack every 3 levels of caster level. Okay. So how does your caster level progress here? Is it as, or is it like half? I'm not sure. Debilitating injury. It doesn't say. Okay, so here's the thing. You start with no sneak attack. What's this? Eldritch Scoundrel. Okay. So, you get a sneak attack every 3 levels, starting at level 3. Right? No, every 4 levels. Sorry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so, but with that spell, you get 1 every 3 levels. So you'd have a 2 sneak attack, 2d6, 1, 2, 3, so it'd be 3d6, 4d6, 5d6, 6d6. So at level 11, you would have a 6d6 while that level 2 spell is active, and here you have a 66 while no spells are active. So basically, the Eldritch Scoundrel can keep that sneak attack damage up, but you also get some spellcasting ability and less and no armor proficiency. So fair trade? Yeah, I think so. But the Knife Master is still the best. You're the best at stabby. So Blade Sense, there you go. You get a +1 dodge AC against other attacks made with light blades. Okay, who cares? What, daggers and kukris? That's not all that great. But you get the uncanny dodge. You get the good sneak attack. You get sneak stab. So you focus on knives. Small bladed weapons. And you use D4. So you use D8s, right? Yeah. But yeah, you roll a D8 for your sneak attack with light bladed weapons, and you roll D4s for everything else. So you want to use those light bladed weapons, is what that's saying. Uncanny dodge, evasion at level 2, quite good. Debilitating injury, all those other things. So you just deal more damage with your knives. Very, very good. Just incredible amounts of damage, it must be said, can be accomplished that way. Thug! This one, you focus less on your, what is it, let's see, brutal beating. Whenever you deal sneak damage, you can get rid of a d6 to make the target sickened, so you're gut punching them for a number of rounds equal to half your rogue level. Quite strong. And again, there's no mention of a saving throw here. So sickened, I think you take a -2 on all of your abilities, and then nauseated, you become unable to fight or cast spells. And I think, let's see, it does not stack with itself. Okay, it just refreshes itself. Okay, debilitating injury as rogue. Okay, so you can gut punch people. It's basically what you get as a thug. And then you also get frightening If you demoralize via persuasion, it lasts for another round. And if they're shaken for 4 or more rounds, they become frightened, so they run away. That can be quite good, but again, you need to have a high persuasion score to make that work. And as a main character, that's a score I would recommend. So, Knife Master is the best for damage. Eldritch Scoundrel can have some spell casting in the mix and still retain decent rogue abilities. I think that could be quite a strong class. And Thug is really good at gut punching people and demoralizing them. Possibly a valuable roleplay character for the story. Sorcerer. As the regular D&D sorcerer, except you get your bloodline feats, which are really just too much to get into. Let's here, you can pause. So there's page 1, and there's page 2, and there's the rest, right? So you get bloodline feats that vary quite a bit, and bloodline powers that again vary quite a bit. Sorcerer bloodlines are pretty neat. They're a great way of adding specific abilities and features to your sorcerer. And have I mentioned that sorcerers are spontaneous casters, meaning they can cast any spell they have memorized, or sorry, any spell that they know without having to memorize it ahead of time. However, they can only learn spells on level up. They cannot learn spells by writing down scrolls. And that is the balancing factor for that. All in all, I greatly appreciate sorcerers. They tend to be more useful for me than mages, even though mages can be quite good. Or sorry, wizards. Now, you could also be a imperial sorcerer. And what are these? These are angelic. These are wisdom-based sorcerers, and they get the imperial bloodline. So that is basically that. They're sort of a cross-class between a cleric and a sorcerer. They eventually get channel positive energy. Let's see, what else do we get here? Sorcerer proficiencies, cantrips, sorcerer bonus feeds, detect magic, heavenly fire. You can unleash a ray of heavenly fire, D4 plus 1 for every 2 levels. It's divine. Heals good creatures. Doesn't work on good creatures more than once per day. Neutral are neither harmed nor healed, and I can use it equal to 3 plus charisma. So, not useless, but as a sorcerer, you have better damage dealing abilities. The ability to heal good aligned creatures is helpful, but again, only once per day. It's just a flavor thing. A bloodline arcana. So instead of using charisma, you use wisdom. That can be extremely good for, say, Imperial Sorcerer with a couple of levels of Monk. You're not wearing armor anyway. You get that armor class buff at first level, and you get the saving throws buff at second level along with evasion. Very good. What else? Let's see, you get Bless, you get Celestial features, you get, what else? Channel Positive Energy at level 9 as a Cleric, as we talked about before. You get Flame Strike as the Cleric spell, more Cleric spells, and Summon Monster 9, giving you, let's see, Movonic Devas, Gaele Azata. Yeah, a Gaele Azata. Whatever that is. And eventually at level 20, you ascend. You become infused with the power of the heavens. You gain immunity to Aschold petrification. Okay, so as an angelic bloodline sorcerer. So the main thing here is this is extremely strong in that you can use your wisdom score for your spellcasting ability, and as I mentioned before, if you want to cross-class with Monk, that can be quite good, or if you want to punch all the way through to level 20, that Ascension can be quite helpful as well. Sylvan Sorcerer, you get an animal companion, and you get some druid spells, or some illusion / druid spells, some Fey abilities, if you will. As though you took the Fey bloodline, and did I mention you get an animal companion? Sage Sorcerer. So this is an intelligence-based sorcerer. Isn't that cool that you can do that? And then you get the arcane bloodline feats and spells. To get into sorcerer bloodlines would take too long. It's a really useful thing to look into for yourself, and basically it's generally flavor, except that the dragon bloodline is the best, and you need to have a dragon disciple in your party. So how do you have a dragon disciple? Get 5 levels of sorcerer and keep putting points into knowledge arcana, and then at level 6 start taking levels in dragon disciple. What does a dragon disciple do? Well, I can't give you specifics here because it doesn't list them as it does for the classes that are immediately able to unlock. But when you do unlock the class, you'll know what the specifics are. Pick a sorcerer, pick the dragon bloodline, pick a color, and put points into knowledge arcana. Even if you don't want to go dragon disciple, it's not a waste of your time. And dragon disciples have some really cool monsty abilities. You get natural attacks, you get claws, you get a bite attack. I think eventually you get wing attacks and a tail slam. So it's just really cool. You end up being able to fly, I hear. So I haven't gotten to that point, but they're really neat. And they retain much of the spellcasting ability that a sorcerer gets, although you end up being 2 or 3 levels lower as a caster than a straight sorcerer, and that's sort of the balancing factor. Wizard! Wizard needs no introduction. They can buff their stats or get a familiar. They can specialize or be a universalist. And they get wizard spells based on their intelligence score. They have to prepare spells just like a cleric does, or a druid. Or you could be an arcane bomber, and what do you get? Opposition school. So you gotta pick 2 schools that you don't use, even 3, 4 schools that you don't use. In return, what do you get? Yeah, you get some alchemy powers, whatever that does for you. Doesn't really describe it here. You get arcane bombs. As description, so these would be like the alchemist's bombs. And also you get spell blast bombs. You can put a spell into your bombs. So that's cool. But what it does is you burn a spell, and it gives you a chance to hit times the level of the spell. So say you burn a level 9 spell and put it into a bomb. Your bomb deals regular damage, with one caveat coming up. But it has a +9 chance to hit, which is pretty good. But you burned a level 9 spell! And it gets a damage bonus equal to twice the level of the spell. So you get +18 damage. So, pretty well guaranteed chance to hit. Okay, +9. That's pretty good. It's got a +9 against ogres. And a total of 18 extra damage, which is meh. I mean, why not use a fireball? That's a level 3 spell instead of burning a level 9. I don't get this. I guess if you want flavor, I don't get it. Thessalonian Specialist. I didn't even know these existed. What do you do? So you're even more of a specialist. You have more spell schools that you don't use, but your specializations are better. Okay, Scroll Savant. Let's see. You're better with scrolls. Okay, so if you want to burn money and be a wizard, you can be a Scroll Savant. And that covers the primary classes. Arcane Trickster is a waste of your time, in my humble opinion. A Stalwart Defender, not sure what that does, but I get the feeling you're going to have a good armor class and maybe some damage absorption. Eldritch Knight already seems a lot like what a... what's it called? A Magus is, except for the fact they get slightly less caster level progression. I think they lose 1 or 2 caster levels over 10 levels of Eldritch Knight prestige class, but they get a high BAB, so that's a thing. Dragon Disciple, like I said, coolest prestige class in the game, highly worth looking into. Mystic Thurge, besides being hard to pronounce, you are a cross class between, say, Cleric or Druid, some Divine caster, and some Arcane caster. In other words, you're wasting your time because you end up being meh at casting Divine spells and meh at casting Arcane spells. You're probably better off at having a Cleric or Druid and then a Sorcerer or Wizard in your party instead of having one Mystic Thurge who keeps making excuses for why he's not performing well enough. I'm sure Mystic Thurges have quite a bit of performance anxiety. The Duelist just seems like a refined type of the fighter archetype. Aldori Defender, very similar, but if you wanted to be some other class and then prestige into the Duelist, you could have a good time. Or maybe you could empower your Aldori Defender. Who's to say? I've never been a huge fan of the Duelist archetype. I feel like other classes do what they do better. Anyway, guys, that has been an extremely long-winded and drawn-out description, overview of the main classes in the game. And you can see there's quite a lot. We actually covered every one of those today, and I apologize if there's some feature I didn't cover. I did need to try and keep things going, and I got distracted quite a few times. Blame that on the ADD. But hopefully that gives you some inspiration for where you want to go when you play this game. And my number one piece of advice, by the way, congratulations for making it this far. You must love the sound of my voice as much as I do. But my number one piece of advice that I should have put at the beginning of the video is make the character you want. Don't worry about being effective in combat. Don't worry about being able to do everything, because you can rock a party of 6 people in this game and have no worries. If you want to have a more compact party, that's up to you, but you don't need to be able to do everything. Do what you want. You want to be that rogue that disarms traps and sneak attack damages people? Be that rogue. You want to be the Dragon Disciple and be just the coolest person with the highest stat scores, but not quite the best at the things you really want to do? You know what? Be cool like me. But whatever you want to build, just build it and don't worry about it. You can always start over. This game has an incredible amount of replayability, and I will be enjoying this game, I'm sure, long into the future. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.